It is the 30th of April 2024, and you're watching AIM on Air, where specialising in connecting companies with its shareholders is what we do best. Hello and welcome back to AIM on Air. My name's Liam, and today I'm pleased to be hosting Sean Day from Greatland for a Q1 quarterly catch-up. Welcome back to the show, Sean.
Hi, Liam. Good to see you again, and appreciate you taking the time to catch up and compile a long list of questions.
Likewise, I really appreciate you sitting here. For our icebreaker today, I simply want to know if you had a book or an author that you were particularly fond of.
I do. What I'm reading presently is the Churchill history. The author, which was Manchester, he actually passed away after writing the first two books in the series. And then the third book, which has come out more recently, was Shadow Written, which was a tragedy because he'd written a magnificent history. So I'm only doing the third book now after some delay.
Okay, cool. Thank you. This morning in the quarter update, you announced that you've updated predictive hydrological model and the water balance has been completed.
Yeah, correct, Liam. Look, I think it was a really positive quarter. And I think also we've benefited from Newmont coming in and an increased focus and increased technical capability that they've brought to it, and just the discipline through which they approach. So that's been worked through. What we found is the flow rates in that lower contained aquifer is lower than anticipated, and that's really a function of the porosity of the rocks, just the speed at which the water can travel through those rocks is less than less than anticipated. So a positive finding, and then that throws right through to the pumping capacity required and the infrastructure to deal with that water. So all in all, this has been a helpful and positive process.
Wonderful, thank you. Whilst we've not heard much about it, further construction works have been completed. What have Greatland and Newmont been developing recently?
Yeah, look, there's been a range of constructions kind of moving forward. A lot of this was around the ventilation system. So this is that they're getting airways down. I think there was a really good picture of some of that kind of airway pictures, which was good, and it just shows some of the scale and just the mechanical engineering that goes into these underground mines. So so that was a lot of work that was set up, a number of pads for when we bring down the updated bores to also join up additional ventilation systems. So it's really getting in that ancillary infrastructure to support the mine and take us down deeper into the basement rock.
Awesome. Thank you. Greatland holds the last right of refusal and has the debt facilities available. This morning, you've openly stated that should there be an opportunity to consolidate the asset, you will. Would you care to expand on this in your own words on what you mean by it and why you would publish this in an RNS?
Well, look, we're excited, and I think our shareholders should be as well about the opportunities ahead of us. And actually, Liam, we spoke briefly just as you were getting kind of ready to set up the call about, I joined in 2021. And I think I was reasonably open that, I saw this platform having an opportunity to bring back ownership of Havron 100% into the vehicle. And in that regard, I think we've built the organizational capacity. We've brought in, a very sophisticated board. The debt banks, which is undrawn that you referred to, which was $220 million on a 30% basis. That potentially extrapolates to a 700 plus number. The strategic shareholder. And now we have a joint venture partner, which has publicly stated that within the next 12 months, I think they said this back in late February, that they'd like to complete a divestment. So this is an exceptional confluence of events and opportunities. And look, we think we're really well positioned to take advantage of that opportunity. And, there's the opportunity within that is important to us. And I think people should be confident that we would think about that, in a very financially disciplined way. And I think I've got a history at Straits, at Sakari, and then at Northern Star of being part of teams that have been very financially disciplined and have managed to undertake transactions that have created value. They were accretive to shareholders. And I think people should have confidence about that. And I don't know the future, but I think people should feel that the team is working hard to position ourselves for that success.
This is a shame this is audio, not video. People would be seeing me smiling from ear to ear right now. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate the candid response there. On the 25th of April, Greatland announced it's gained access to a large area, the Ernest Giles area, under the Mount Smith license. Are you hoping to get a drill up there in 2024 to see what's under the cover?
Yes. Well, let me break that down in two parts. I think Meadows, we want to get a rig onto that in 24. I think that new area, there's probably some additional geotechnical work that we want to do to identify the best positioning of the drill pads. But I think if people cast their mind back to that announcement, you've got this arc structure, and that is the geological feature on that Archean greenstone. And we've now effectively consolidated that entire arc structure, the really prospective parts of Ernst Giles. So, look, we don't believe we could have a better platform there. Archean greenstones are tightly held in Western Australia. The majority of West Australian golds are within these kind of within these Archean greenstones, within these kind of associated with these structures. So we're really positive about the opportunity that presents for us. So we'll definitely get a rig on there this year. There's been a bit of rain up there, so it's been hard to get on that side. But as that clears and the roads open again, I think you'll see quite a meaningful amount of activity in the second half of the year. And that's exciting, including the drilling.
Wonderful. I know of a few shareholders that would be very excited to start scouring the satellite data as it appears every 5 days in the coming months. Thank you. Newmont released their annual reserves and resource statement, and I note that the company said Newmont's updated Havron mineral resource estimate is particularly pleasing in how closely it correlates to Greatland's estimate in the higher confidence indicated mineral resource category, and the significant increase relative to the previous Newcrest indicated mineral resource. Could you give me some context on that, please, and what you mean by it?
Yeah, well, look, we're really pleased. What we have from memory, 5 million ounces of indicated resource. Now, it's the indicated resource that can be translated into reserves. So you have a high confidence about those ounces being in the ground because you've got a higher level of density of drilling, or an increased density of drilling. So we feel really positive about that. And then to have Newmont come in under a slightly different, under their SEC rules for resources, and as such do their own independent process and come up with a number that validated our own, we thought was really positive. So again, it's around this validation, it's around this consistency. It's nice to have that alignment.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. This has been the quietest quarter in some time. With not so much happening, I thought it'd be prudent to change direction and look forwards for a change to ask the questions that your shareholders are wondering. Sorry to drop this on you, but with the dwindling share price, questions are being asked, and I feel it's my duty to ask them. The show is supported by members of the community who buy me the odd coffee to help pay for the show's running costs, and I thank them for that support. In return, I try to include the odd question. Today's is from Tallchap JG, who says, what do you mean by the phrase option value for shareholders? And with a follow-up of how do you see that value?
So when I talk about option value, and look, I sometimes refer to that in the context of geology, or perhaps in the context of being able to take our ownership from 30 to 100%. But what I really mean around that option value, and let's use the geology or exploration geology as the example for this discussion. That clearly, and Greatland shareholders understand this, because exploration success can create just a huge amount of value for shareholders. Now, not every drill will necessarily deliver a Havron type intercept. In fact, they're quite rare. But what it shows you is the value it can be created. So by having these drill opportunities in the within the portfolio, it means there is this future opportunity to create that shareholder value. And that applies to exploration. It applies to the opportunity to execute an accretive transaction, where there are events or catalysts that can create this value for us. And I think I'd like to think we've created a platform which is catalyst rich in terms of providing those opportunities for outperformance for shareholders.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate that. You mentioned in a recent interview that more pond liner has been ordered. Do we need to wait for new ponds to be built, or can you start to drain the lower confined aquifer now?
It's a little bit in parallel, but yes, look, we also want to get those additional ponds built, and part of that additional ponds we are putting in place are more needed just for surge capacity than necessarily steady state. For instance, a confluence of pumping and a rain event. So look, you obviously don't install exactly the infrastructure you need. So you can do these things in parallel, and you can start before it's all in place. But it's not linear in sequence. But having said that, we do want to get those under sail. And one of the great benefits of having a Newmont as a joint venture partner is they were very proactive even in parallel as the study's being done, saying, well, let's line up what we need, the long lead time items, in this case, the liner, so that is on site and ready to go as soon as we confirm through technical analysis the size of those ponds that we want to have in place. Yeah, I'm just going to add, you don't normally see that in the mid-cap or small miners space. It's really nice to see just the proactiveness that a major can bring to something like this.
Yeah, no, that must make a huge difference to how a project plays out. Have you got any timelines on your mind as to when that would restart with the emptying of it so you can commence the drilling?
Oh, look, I think that will play out through the quarter. I think if we were definitive on that, we would have kind of weaved it into the March quarter. And again, we might have our own view on this internally at Greatland, but that also needs to be agreed at the upcoming joint venture meeting. You
said on the proactive interview that you can take shortcuts from what was originally planned. Does this mean a new revision of the plan needs to be submitted to the DMP for approval? When would you expect the plans to be approved?
When I referred to a shortcut, I was probably trying to say that briefly in the confines of what is a shorter proactive interview session. So really what it is the contact between the Permian layer and the basement rock is not absolutely flat or horizontal. It actually has a slope in one direction. And so there are places where the basement rock and the ore body are actually closer to surface than other areas. And basically, with the increased density of drilling that we've done around the ore body, and as part of that were the boreholes, we've been able to refine the path of the decline to both take what we think is the safest route through the LCA, but also to have a path that leads us in a shorter vertical distance to actually getting to the basement rock.
Over the last few years, we've had many jobs appear in public spaces for working at both Havron and Telfa, with contracts that are ending in June 24. Despite not having any correlation with the new owner or being part of the sale process, we find ourselves only a month away and rumours of all sites being in care and maintenance. Will the projects be affected by this if the contracts are not renewed and staff leave?
Yeah, look, there's a little bit to unpack there and actually correct, okay. Liam. So firstly, I think, look, project development staff are almost always on contract because they're not normally the same team that move into steady state. It is a specific set of skills that and there's people who spend their careers in project development. So it's not unusual to have those people on contracts. So that is in the ordinary course. In terms of the project itself, we just talked about the installation of infrastructure going on, the refocus on the study and the positive outcome. To our mind, well, I think I can be more definitive than that. There's no intent to put the asset into care and maintenance, so it's probably worth just speaking to that directly and nipping that in the bud. But we have a great relationship with Newmont, and also they've talked about wanting to divest Havron Telfa, let's say within 12 months. So there's actually probably greater alignment right now in that they want to present this asset in the best possible light to the eventual buyer. So I think they will be thinking in their own interest about how do they continue to advance and de-risk this project in a sensible way to optimize their own value outcome.
Okay, thank you. And just to clarify and reiterate, neither Havron or Telfa are currently in care and maintenance.
Correct. And look, I'm not the owner of Telfa, so I've got to be a little bit cautious about what I say here because I don't know all the facts. But I think Newmont has publicly stated that they that it's in pause whilst they address upgrade the tailings dam, but they continue to mine. The site is very active. So I think people should feel really confident about that. And look, I don't know the mind of Newmont, but again, if they're looking to divest that asset, they are going to be thinking about optimizing that value. And that means a divestment of an asset that is a going concern and continuing operation. And I should add, it's actually quite expensive to demobilize a site. So it's not something you just do and then say, we'll remobilize it a bit better. And you want to keep those people in place, which I think is part of the underlying sense of that question.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you very much for clarifying that. I really appreciate it. Should shareholders expect timeframes on the feasibility study to slip again, with Newmont signalling that Q2 2025 for all divestments? We could see the whole project shift sideways for a few quarters. What guidance can you give with your own expectations?
Look, I think our expectations remain consistent that with what I think we even said in this quarterly, which is an expectation that the feasibility study can and will be completed by the end of calendar year 2024. So that progresses, and again, I think comes under that alignment concept that Newmont have additional horsepower and capacity that they've brought to the table, and solving issues such as the water balance only continue to advance that progress.
Okay, thank you. Are you worried that you might run out of cash before the ore starts to make it to the surface for processing? And on that, are you able to specify how much cash we have left, and can we sustain the spend with the current wage bill that we've got currently?
Look, I don't want to add to kind of what's already in the marketplace on that, which would be in our cash balance at 3 months ago at 31 December. But we also have a $50 million Wyloo facility that's undrawn, and of course that broader $220 million facility in place. And I think, again, I've spoken about that and said that $220 million would really like to bring that online as part of the feasibility study. So that's, I see that as 2025 onwards funding. So we feel we're well placed. So again, I think we've put in place the structures to make us confident about managing liquidity.
Okay, so the exploration program for 2024. What funds are available for it, and are you comfortable that you can operate this outside of the Havieron infrastructures, Havieron program?
Look, the Greatland exploration team works independently from that of Havron or indeed Telfa. We sometimes utilize some of that infrastructure, be it roads or refueling, but fundamentally they're all independent, as are all the other explorers up in the Patterson. So there's really no change from our end. Although those pieces of infrastructure continue to be there and just make everything a little bit easier. And what's nice about that is having medical facilities, having a all-weather bitumen airstrip at Telfa, provide additional comfort around risk management, safety plans if there is an injury in that area, because otherwise it's very remote. So some of the infrastructure already installed on the Patterson, I think, benefits everyone.
Okay, thank you. The share price sadly continues to decline as the uncertainty of our future goes on. None of the exec team have been seen to be publicly talking about the project. We've heard repeatedly the words such as transformational, accretive, and option value, but nothing seems to be happening towards making any of this happen. What are the board's intentions? You have achieved so much during your tenure as managing director, securing our future and owning 30% of Havieron. But what do you say to those who critique that without Havieron coming online, you failed to meet the most important of your objectives? A tough question, sorry.
No, look, I appreciate, Liam, that you asked these questions. And look, the fact that we have a really engaged shareholder base is something we celebrate. And I try to make myself available, with you, with other interviews, but also at the town hall meetings. And if I only wanted to get questions I want to get asked, I can do pre-recordings of that. But so look, we think we've been, I'm really proud of what we've achieved at Greatland. I think the organisational capacity we've built with the team is tremendous. Being successful in that 5% process to maintain the 30% holding was incredibly important. I think that was otherwise an existential threat. Bringing in the strategic holder, shareholder, bringing in a world-class board, putting in that debt letter of support, the $220 million I mentioned before, and the names we brought in with ANZ, ING, and HSBC are all incredibly important achievements. Now, what I've come into is a situation where we have a joint venture partner and we're a minority holder. That's been really helpful for us. I think when you look at the normal cycle time from discovery to development, the Newcrest and now Newmont involvement has accelerated that amazingly. I think this was a very late 2018, really 2019 discovery. And in February 2021, we are putting in a box cut and decline. Now, that is unheard of, to have a 2-year cycle time from discovery to commencement. And that would not have been achieved without having a major in place. So we should celebrate that, and we should celebrate that structure was put in place. But now we have an opportunity to potentially the major to exit, and that is an opportunity that is exciting for us as a management team and should be for shareholders. So we think that ultimately, delivers Havron, and whether that's delivered buy Newmont or they exit, and we're given the opportunity to, to take the reins and deliver the project, I think that would be tremendous. And I think if we were in the driving seat, I'd feel really confident that we would be able to complete the task in front of us. But I think equally, I'm really confident in the organisational capacity of Newmont. People should have confidence that the underlying project is a really high quality gold copper project. You look at gold and copper prices, it's a pretty good time to be a producer of those products, especially in Australian dollars, because the Australian dollar is historically weak at this level of gold and copper price. So it is a tremendous opportunity. I think the financials only look better. So, yeah, I don't know the mind of Newmont. I don't know exactly how they think about the exit opportunity. But anyone coming into this, including Greatland, I think will have a burning ambition to complete the development.
Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And from one tough question to the next. We cover this one fairly regularly, and I hate asking about it, as your answer is always fairly similar. But why are the board not out there talking about the company or the project in the public space?
Thanks, Len. Well, look, I'm one of the directors of the company, and I'm certainly seek to be out there as much as possible, presenting the narrative into the market, both with opportunities like this, town halls, and other interviews and RNS releases and communications. So, and I don't think you'd expect to see non-executive directors taking on that role. And to some extent, I'm really appreciative that the board has the confidence in the management team to fulfil that role, and it's something we seek to put a lot of effort into. And I think if you were in the market, in this case, often in the Perth market, in this case, for a number of directors, I think you'd see their advocacy for the company in terms of engaging with advisors, bankers, funds, potential shareholders, and the connectivity that they bring. And also how people differently perceive Greatland as a counterparty, given the maturity and the quality of some of the people we have in the management and very much so on the board. So I think I see it as hugely positive and I think a strength of the organisation.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for clarifying. It's also been noted that none of the board have done what's expected of them in AIM and put their hands in their pockets to show support and solidarity by buying on the open market. I appreciate they do have their incentives, but they're not seen to be suffering losses like some of the shareholders. So what would you say to those who claim that the board are not supporting the company?
Well, look, again, I think a number of directors, including myself, have bought shares. So I think that's important to understand. Again, I'll just reference back to the broader support the board has, but also the alignment. Principally they're aligned with those options, which are significantly out of the money right now. So you have a board here, and indeed a management team along with them, hugely incentivized to deliver exceptional shareholder share price growth for the benefit of everyone. Now, I think that's wonderful alignment, and I think people should celebrate it. I personally like that structure. I like that my board actually wants to see shareholder appreciation and are willing to pursue strategies that they think will be value creative and not just risk averse. So I think it's a really mature structure. I think it's a good structure, and I think we should celebrate the team that's helped us attract.
Okay, thank you, Sean. I think that will really put that one to bed for some time now. These ones put me outside of my comfort zone as they're so forward-looking, and we all know I don't like looking forward so much. But but it'd be wrong of me not to ask at this time. Tom Palmer has said in the divestments will happen in the phase 1. Any idea when that will conclude?
Oh, look, I don't know the mind of Newmont, but look, we certainly, feel we're well placed to engage with Newmont when they feel they're ready to go. These things typically take a little bit of time. And remember, this is actually a really new asset for Newmont to own. They only bought it in late November, while some of the other assets they've owned for years. So these things do take a little bit of time to play out. But again, I think people should be excited about the opportunity. Certainly the management team is. Some patience is needed with these things, but equally, we think we're extremely well positioned and working hard to position ourselves for that success. And I'm really excited about the opportunities that presents to us.
Okay, thank you. So what about the scalable finance? If we were to buy the farm, do you have enough scalable finance to take it, both Havron and Telfa?
Look, I think these questions are hard to define until the vendor kind of sets a price. But having said that, I think this is all about us having an exceptional confluence of events, the capacity, the board, the strategic investors, but also that support letter from tier 1 banks, ANZ, HSBC, ING. 220 million, I'll do the maths for people, that's on 30%, that extrapolates to 733 million. Now, I'm not saying that that's specifically the amount that could be borrowed, but it's certainly a really meaningful war chest. And I understand through my career the benefit that debt leverage can deliver to amplify equity returns and make financially disciplined transactions incredibly accretive and value creative for shareholders.
Okay, thank you. One of the questions that does pop up from time to time is if you do it as a JV or if it's something you would want to do alone. Is that anything you've given thought to?
Oh, I think people should be confident. I give thought to a lot of things, Liam. But look, I think, I'm an options kind of guy. I enjoy having the optionality in place, and we would consider sensible approaches. But equally, we feel we've built an organisation that is capable to be in the driving seat and successfully deliver Havron.
Okay, a slight change of thought. What happens to the percentage of jury that's currently under ownership of Newmont?
Well, again, look, I don't know the mind of Newmont, but if we take at face value what I understand they've said publicly, which is that Telfer and Havron are non-core and that they intend to exit those assets, you'd think it's logical. There'd be an industrial logic to Newmont also exiting its surrounding exploration tenements. I doubt they would keep an exploration foothold in an geological area where they've exited the infrastructure.
That's fair, thank you. Newmont have initially said that Telfer and Havron were available for divestment individually. In later terms, they've said that they've combined them together. Is this because Telfer is such a large liability on its own? And does that play into our hands from a valuation standpoint?
So, look, I don't know the mind of Newmont, whether they would consider selling them as a package or as a standalone. Ultimately, when they start a process, I think that will be, disclosed. That said, I think if you have a look at the Newmont's latest disclosures, they have a carrying value for Telfa. That is, it also discloses the liabilities associated with rehabilitation and other provisions, which is really meaningful. So, look, there's certainly a balancing act when you think about Telfa, both the potential for cash flow during its remaining mine life, which is relatively short, I understand from public statements, offset by reasonably meaningful liabilities. By contrast, Havron is new. Its best days are ahead of it, and it hasn't got that that historic site works and rehabilitation obligations. So, to some extent, I celebrate that our asset, Havron, has its best days in front of us. And without commenting on Telfa, it's certainly a more complex beast, buying assets that have had the wonderful life Telfa has had over 30 plus years.
Okay, thank you. Should we get to Telfa, would you sell royalties as part of a package as Northern Star have previously to raise funds, I suppose I should say there?
Yeah, I think during my time at Northern Star, if I can comment just in terms of Northern Star, during my time at Northern Star, and I think subsequently to my mind, royalties were not sold. I think when you've got an asset, a development and a growth asset, there's a lot of upside to the future and the longevity of that production, which royalties can participate in just because of their in perpetuity kind of status. So I think all options should be considered, but we would view any decision as Greatland on any opportunity about creating shareholder value and about being accretive. And if we thought that was amplified with royalties, we'd consider them. But equally, often I think simple structures are often, which are the most transparent, create the greatest value over time.
Okay, thank you. I'm expecting a fat no comment from you on this one, but are you able to comment that Regis Resources have been linked to both Havron and Telfa in recent times? And has Jim Bayer swung by the Greatland office by any chance?
Well, look, no comment, but I will say, Jim's a good person. I know him as I do most people in the West Australian gold sector. And look, overall, I think we should only be flattered if there's a whole lot of speculation about high-quality companies wanting to own Havron, because it is a world-class asset.
Wonderful. Okay. Sadly, Sean, he says, looking for his teleprompter. That's the end of this webcast, ladies and gents. If you want to reach out to us, you can contact us on Twitter with the address on the screen. And before you close this page, I'd be grateful of any thumbs ups. This interview is supported by your donations, so if you enjoyed or learned something today, please consider buying me a coffee on the link on the screen now. Sean Day, Managing Director of Greatland Gold PLC. Thank you so much for coming to the show to discuss the previous quarter and answer some of these tough questions. Do you have any final words for your shareholders today?
Look, just to say thank you to yourself, Liam, and the AIM On Air platform. And in terms of shareholders, look, we really appreciate the engagement. I think my vision for the platform and I think the board's vision for the platform has not changed. And I think we are really well positioned for success. So appreciate that support, and the excitement we have for the future, hopefully, is conveyed in this discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you. Until next time, my name's Liam, and you've been watching AIM On Air. We're specialised in connecting companies with shareholders. Is what we do best. Thank you.